Welcome back. Super happy to have you. The presentations are going to continue with some great energy and enthusiasm, and I hope you'll be inviting your friends. They can still join us. Got some really interesting stuff coming up. So, for example, I've got the pleasure now of introducing Andrew Lacanienta, who is a professor at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, as I mentioned before the break, and he is also just a really cool guy. He's a prefect at the College of Extraordinary Experiences. I hope he'll talk about that. It's an incredible place, and has an incredible background in design and design thinking and staging and a whole bunch of things I think are going to intrigue the audience. So I'm delighted that he accepted our invitation to come and present, and I think you should buckle up and watch this person present because he's really cool. Andrew, are you ready?
All right. Well, good
afternoon. Yay, good to see you, pal.
Hey, how's it going?
Awesome. Nice backdrop.
Thanks.
I like it. It's over to you, and let's take me off the stage and let this gentleman do his thing.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Carl. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Let me see what we've got going on here. What a pleasure it is to be with you today. Wow, what a year we've been through and what a year we have ahead of us. And what a great lineup of speakers that we've had. It's been really awesome, and I hope that you've enjoyed your time today. And with so much going on, I want to take a quick break with you. I know we all had a break, but I want to just give a moment to give our minds a quick rest. And if you'll drop into this experience with me, if you will, right, and take some collective breaths as a big group. Just want us to take 3 breaths together, if you will. So I invite you to real quick silence your phones, kind of set them aside, close your eyes. Maybe place your hands softly in your lap. And let's take 3 big breaths together to kind of begin our experience. Let's go in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth, and one last one, in through the nose. And go ahead and let out a big sigh. And out through the mouth. Now, with your eyes closed still, I invite you to throw a big smile on your face. Yep, that feels pretty good, doesn't it? Now, let's continue with our experience. With your eyes remaining closed, I want to do a quick thought exercise with you. Go inward, and I want you to think about one of your most cherished memories. Okay, really think deeply about this memory. Who was there with you? Where were you? What colors do you see when you think about this experience? Okay, what smells do you smell? What kind of scents or aromas are present? Were there any tastes involved in this experience or this memory? Okay, if you had to think about the theme of this memory, what might it be? Do you have any tangible reminders of this memory? Any photos or small trinkets of these memories? Really, in your mind's eye, with your eyes closing, and really paint a vivid picture of this memory, as vivid as you can. Now, with that memory in mind, I want to ask, how much would you maybe sell that memory for? If we could remove that memory from your brain, from your mind, you no longer had it, how much would you sell it for? Would you sell it for $10? How about $100? Maybe $10,000 or $100,000. And I imagine that many of you are shaking your heads no, because many of you probably thought I would never sell. My memories are priceless. And it's true, they are. And those memories that you all just thought of are tied to experiences, right? Experiences that were by a person or a team, either intentionally or not. They were designed. Right? They were designed and staged and then formed epic memories in your mind that you wouldn't sell for any amount of money. I will call myself an experience designer. At Cal Poly, I teach students how to use tools and frameworks to intentionally design experiences in a variety of different spaces. And I like to design experiences in my own spaces as well. I design learning experiences for students. I design experiences that help communities connect and heal, specifically after the pandemic. Like Carl was mentioning, I design immersive experiences in castles, which maybe we can get into a little bit later. I like to design conferences and meeting experiences that engage, or design brand activations that help support a cause. And maybe most importantly, I like to design transformative growth experiences for my 2 daughters. You all who are listening also design experiences for your children, for your customers, for your students, for your friends. So regardless of your field, I might argue that you are also an experience designer. And today we're going to talk about how we can get back to the basics and really improve as experience designers to create amazing experiences that are time well spent. And it's going to be relatively simple as we do so. But now in order to do that, I want us to go back to the basics and quickly visit seminal work in experience design. It's called The Experience Economy. Some of you may be familiar with this book. It was originally published in the late 1990s, right? When Joe Pine and Jim Gilmore introduced this idea of the experience economy. And they exemplified the experience economy with coffee. And they showed this progression of economies, starting with commodities there to the left and moving upwards to experiences. Now, in a commodity-based economy, we would grow coffee, right? Or purchase coffee as a raw commodity to make on our own, right? At that point, a cup of coffee would maybe cost a couple of cents to the dollar. But then we shifted to a goods-based economy. And in a goods-based economy, someone is growing, harvesting, processing, and then packaging that good to sell on a store shelf, right? And we can now buy it and take it home and very quickly and easily brew ourselves a nice cup of Joe. And at that point, the value increases because more has gone into the coffee by the time we're drinking it. So maybe a cup of coffee at that point costs like 25 cents. Now, a big shift happened when we moved into the service economy, right? Here is where we defined time well saved. We engage in services to save time, right? And in the service economy, someone still grows and harvested and processes and then sells the coffee to a service provider who then is paid to do a coffee brewing service for us, right? It saves us time. We don't have to brew it. We grab our coffee and we are on our way. Again, at this point, the value increases, right? Yet again, maybe to $1 or $2 if we're getting coffee from a gas station or from McDonald's or somewhere like that. Now, Pine and Gilmore argued that we've moved into an experience economy, okay, where we now shift from time well saved to time well spent. Okay, again, a shift from time well saved. We're not just saving time anymore. We're now going to spend time. Because in this experience economy, goods are used on a stage of the service to provide an experience. So we're still in the same space, right? Someone still grows, harvests, and processes the coffee. They sell it to a coffee provider who is then being paid to do a coffee brewing service for you. But again, now we've switched from time well saved to time well spent. We go to a nice cafe or a coffee shop now to spend time because of the experience they provide. Right? They have Wi-Fi, they've got really nice decor. The barista might know your name if you go there often. Okay, there's a nice ambiance, there's music, there's food. Of course, we still go to enjoy the coffee and we still pay for, in a sense, that coffee brewing service, right? But our main drive to engage isn't to save time, it's to spend time. Right? And in our world, we see this progression of economies in a number of different spaces outside of coffee, right? There are many different examples if you take a moment to think. A couple of those examples might include a cake, right? So my children's birthday is coming up soon. And a cake is a commodity, right? We could go out to the farm and we could harvest some eggs, we could get some flour, we could get all the things that we need mostly to bake a cake on our own. And it'd be very cheap. Or I could go to the store and I could buy a boxed cake. A Betty Crocker box cake, take it home, bake it myself, and it would be great. I could also go to Costco and I could pay for a cake baking service, right? Which is, again, time well saved. They're going to save me the time. I don't have to worry about anything. I just walk in there, tell them how much cake I want, and they're maybe even going to write, happy birthday, Eva, on the cake for free. What a steal, right? Then on the other hand, we have an experience, right, of time well spent, where I could take my kids for their birthday party to the farm where those commodities were harvested or grown. And at the farm, they have this awesome birthday experience, right? Where they get to maybe go to the petting zoo, they get to pet the goats and the sheep, and it's super cute. And they maybe get to run through the fields, right? And plant some things, maybe harvest some vegetables. Maybe they get to go get some eggs from the chickens and then give them to someone. And then at the very end of this birthday experience, or this time well spent, okay, the organization that we have hired or paid to do this, they throw in a cake for free. The cake becomes the afterthought. It's the thing that's provided because the experience was built around that thing. Okay. Up in Sonoma County, we see, well, there's wine everywhere, I suppose, but I'm in Sonoma County. So in Sonoma County, right, we have lots of wine. And we can see that in similar progression from grapes that are growing out of the ground, right, to maybe going to the store to buy a good, which would be a bottle of wine. Maybe we're going to pay for a wine service at our dinner, right? Well, they'll uncork the wine and pour it for us, have a wine service. Or we can go to a wine experience, right? Where we can go to the vineyard. We can meet the winemakers. We can meet the farmers. We can maybe put our hands in the dirt where that wine is growing and feel how the dirt is different. Touch and taste some of the grapes. Maybe stomp on the grapes ourselves. Maybe bottle our own bottle of wine to take home, right? But we're there to spend time, not just to save it. So then the question arises, when we all are designing events or meetings or entertainment or classrooms or whatever it may be, are we creating a service that is time well saved, or are we creating an experience that is time well spent? Think about that in the different spaces that you may be working, moving, playing, or otherwise. A meeting, for example, may be a service in that we're simply like saving people time by having information dispensed to them, right? They aren't necessarily spending their time well, maybe, or particularly enjoying the experience in some cases, right? But we are saving them the time of going and finding more books, or going and finding a mentor and spending weekly time with this mentor, or going to learn in another space, right? It's time well saved. They have this service of learning where someone is teaching them something. Okay. Similarly, at other conferences or networking mixers, they might save us time in that we're able to maybe meet a lot of people at once. Okay. Again, time well saved. We meet everyone at once from all these different spaces in this space. But again, is it always time well spent, or is it just time well saved? Okay. Even in entertainment situations, right? We might be providing a service and time well saved because we're providing a quick escape from reality. We're saving them time in that they might have needed to hop in a car and drive for a long time into the wilderness to escape, but instead they can come to our theater production or to a movie or something instead. Again, time well spent. But what if we shifted our perspective from time well saved, from time well saved to time well spent? And we shifted from just saving people time to providing spaces and places and experiences where people could enjoy time well spent. And please know that it's not to say that the meetings and the movies that we go to and the conferences and the events and the other things we go to are all just, oh, that's just time well saved and we're writing those things off. That's not the case at all, right? Of course. Many of these things are time well spent. And I want us to think, just continue to think in our minds, are we designing services or are we designing experiences? And I'm going to talk about a couple of examples where unlikely goods and services were turned into experiences, and talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to look at a toolkit for taking some of our services and designing experiences around them. So let's look at some examples. Build-A-Bear has really done something different, right? They've taken a good, like a teddy bear, and they use that good on the service, which is their stage, to help you build this bear, and it all comes together in an experience. Now, I don't know about you and many of your children, but my children love Build-A-Bear, right? It's quite amazing and sometimes comical even. A normal teddy bear at the store costs $5 to $15, right, at a normal store. And it comes pre-assembled. It's already made. But if you go to Build-A-Bear, right, where they make your children build the bear from the ground up, it costs like how much? I don't know, $40 to $50. right? They really snuck around labor laws there, and they're also able to charge more money somehow. But why, right? Why can they charge more money for this thing that they make us assemble? Well, it's because they're creating an experience around their offering. Right? It's time well spent, more than just a good or time well saved with this service, but time well spent. Okay, so much so that kids go to Build-A-Bear to, again, have their birthday parties, right? And spend a birthday celebration all building bears together. And I won't lie, it's super cute, right? They give you like this little heart and you get to kiss it and then put it inside the bear and sew it up. Like, they've got it down, right? We'll give that to them. But again, it's a great example of using goods on the stage of this service, right, to create an experience that is time well spent. Okay, our next example comes from a house showing service for buying a house, right? Now, participating in a house showing service is time well saved, right? You can walk in, you can kind of feel out the house and see how everything goes before you purchase it, right? If you just purchase the house without the house showing service, you might spend loads of time in the future renovating, repainting, or even reselling. But what if a house showing service could be more of time well spent? And I want to show you this quick 1-minute clip of what that could look like.
Kijk.
Met veel inbouwapparatuur. De woonkamer met aangebouwde scène heeft openslaande deuren. Dit is de aanwezigheid van de scène en een veranda. De veranda is bijzonder ruim, met maar liefst 5 slaapkamers, een badkamer. De tuin is in 2012 nieuw aangelegd.
Okay, so again, we see time well spent, right? Really meaningful time spent riding a roller coaster through this house. So again, just more examples, right, of taking things we might not think about as experiences and creating experiences out of them. Another example, right? This is the Eurostar train. It's a service that takes people from London to Paris, right? Now, once upon a time, a long time ago, people wanted this service to be faster, okay? So they spent about £6 billion to make this train ride 20 minutes faster. £6 billion, right? To make the journey from 2 hours, 35 minutes to 2 hours and 15 minutes. That is the epitome of time well saved, right? Even though it's only 20 minutes. And yes, there were a number of folks, specifically those commuting, right, from London to Paris, who would enjoy a shorter commute. But again, what if we could shift from focusing our perspectives on time well saved and focus more on time well spent? For example, for a fraction of the cost that they spent on making the train 20 minutes faster, they could have installed Wi-Fi, which they didn't have on the train at the time. Okay, if they have Wi-Fi on the train now, it can be time well spent because that 2 hours and 35 minutes can be spent working while you're commuting. For another fraction of the cost, they could have offered free coffee in the morning for commuters to kind of get amped and ready for their day. And then they could have offered free champagne on the 2.5-hour drive home for decompression, right, after work. So free coffee in the morning, free champagne on the way home. So you've got Wi-Fi, coffee, and champagne now. And in this situation, there would have been about 4 to 5 billion pounds left over, and people would have actually asked for the train to be slowed down, right, instead of sped up, because they would have been able to have time well spent. They wouldn't need to save time anymore because they're able to kind of shift their perspective, right, and have more things to do. Sometimes when we're designing events or experiences, meetings, all these things, sometimes rational ideas are prioritized over psychologically enticing ones. So how can we shift that mindset? Last example. What you see here is an MRI service. Time well saved, right? Because hopefully we can get to the core of the problem right away, proceed with treatment, and move forward. What if, though, we could make the procedure more enjoyable and make it time well spent? So Doug Dietz was a designer for GE Healthcare. And a number of years ago, he had wrapped up a project working on a brand new, beautiful MRI machine. But to his dismay, he realized that he had created something more scary than it was wonderful. And he learned this because he went down to the hospital to observe the new service in action, and he saw a pediatric patient with her parents coming in for an MRI procedure. The child looked visibly frightened, and there was a somber look of worry on the parents' faces as well. And as the little girl began to cry, Doug saw the MRI technician pick up the phone and call the anesthesiologist. Because pediatric patients often need to be sedated, right, to hold still enough for the procedure. And while Doug is observing this and having this experience, right, he quickly realized that while his service was wonderful and doing great things, he also realized that the experience around it needed to change. And so with some simple principles, Doug themed his service and shifted it from what it was to time well spent. And this was the result. So the result, as you can see here, this was one of 9 different stories, okay, complete with costumes, voices, and an awesome narrative that allowed for patients to be little heroes and heroines of their own MRI adventure, okay? And as you can see, this one happened to be pirate themed, okay? And everyone involved was participating in special ways. The story that was created helped patients even to hold still long enough for the procedure and have fun at the same time, right? Now, this surely helped with the satisfaction of patients and maybe even with the bottom line, right? But what really mattered is that when Doug went back for another observation after they had implemented these things, he saw a patient leaving the MRI room, and a little girl looked up at her mother and she said, "Mom, can we come back tomorrow?" Right? That is time well spent, my friends, when we want to come back tomorrow to get another MRI. So what I'm trying to show with these examples is that whether we sell goods or provide services via events, meetings, or entertainment, we're all designing experiences for people. We have different names for those people, right? Be they customers, clients, employees, patients, students, visitors, community members, or tourists. But we're all designing experiences and can benefit from thinking more intentionally about the way we create each experience. Now, there are many elements that go into an experience or into experience design. There's lots of different things that can help us shift from time well saved to time well spent. But today, I want to just take us back to the basics. And there are 5 things that we're going to touch on today to talk about how we can design more memorable experiences and experiences that are time well spent. And it's all encompassed in this acronym around theme, okay? And as we go through this acronym, I invite you to think about the next event, meeting, classroom session, or experience that you're designing and how each of these pieces might apply to you. Okay, again, it might be an event, it might be a class if you're an educator, it might be someone's birthday, or even the dinner that you're preparing for your family tonight. In fact, if you don't have anything in mind, think about the next dinner that you're creating, right? We can create something special and fun. And I also invite you to be throwing ideas into the chat. As you're thinking about themes and as you're thinking about ideas throughout the rest of the presentation, throw stuff in the chat. Let's let people hear your creative process and hear what you're thinking about, what you're excited about, etc. It'll be really fun to see what everybody comes up with. But with the acronym theme, the first thing that we're going to touch on is just that, theme. So the T in our theme acronym is theme. Now, theme is often associated with things like a Hawaiian theme or Old Western theme or the 80s theme or whatever it may be, which is great, but it's not always the case, right? A theme is a set of tangible and intangible cues that suggest a different time, place, or set of circumstances. Themes could be anything from antique to a theme of warmth or fire. What about a theme of nostalgia, connection, healing, happiness, utopia, dystopia, or the year 2050? Themes build immersion and allow us to transport ourselves and our guests or our customers to another time, place, and set of circumstances. In the picture that you can see in the background here, we see kind of a Harry Potter or wizard-esque theme. This comes from an experience called the College of Wizardry. Okay, it's a live-action role-play event in Poland where people dress up like Harry Potter and have this weekend-long Harry Potter experience. And the theme is so amazing that you would think you fell out of real life and into a live Harry Potter set. Right? So think about then. If you're thinking about your upcoming event or dinner or birthday or whatever thing you kind of have on your creative table right now, what themes might you include to heighten the upcoming experience that you're designing? Okay. You think about that. And again, an invitation to throw things in the chat. We'd love to hear what's going on. Now, choosing a theme is just the first step, right? Then we need to figure out the cues that can help us really get lost and immersed in that theme. That's where the H and the E of our acronym come into play. Okay, harmonizing impressions with positive cues and eliminating negative cues. So this slide focuses on tangible cues, right? Things that you can see and touch that help you feel like you're in another time, place, or set of circumstances. Going back to our MRI example, right, and the pirate ship. If the MRI technician and nurse come aboard the pirate ship, right, wearing scrubs like that, it breaks the immersion immediately, right? It's a negative cue. And it doesn't help us feel like we're in a different time, place, or set of circumstances. If we're helping the pediatric patients feel calm and relaxed and like having fun on this pirate ship, this is a negative cue that doesn't allow us to feel that. Right? This, on the other hand, is a more appropriate outfit for our MRI technicians or our nurses or whoever is going to be involved in that experience, because that is a tangible cue that I can see that helps me feel like I'm in the theme, right, or in the story, or in that different time, place, or set of circumstances. So everything should emphasize the theme so that it's cohesive and immersive. Sticking with the pirate example, very similar, right? If this is the trash can on the boat, I'm gonna be a little bit hesitant, right? Because that's not exactly the same trash can that I might expect on a pirate ship, whereas this is. And we might be chuckling, right? The trash can, but it's the trash cans and the small details that really make the difference, right? When we think about the cues that can help us feel like we're in an experience. Now, similarly, there are intangible cues, okay? So not all cues are tangible, like the costumes. Some are intangible, like the way we speak, the mood we bring in, or the music we play. At the Rainforest Cafe, for example, the words they use are an intangible cue that we hear that makes us feel more like we're in a different time, place, or set of circumstances, or in a rainforest, right? They don't just say, Greenwood, group of 2, your table's ready, because that's what a restaurant says. That's not what they say in an immersive rainforest. But at the Rainforest Cafe, they say, Greenwood party, your adventure is about to begin, right? So that intangible cue helps me feel like I'm in a rainforest and going on an adventure, not at just another restaurant. Similar with our MRI experience, right? The MRI technician dressed up as the pirate better come in with an awesome pirate voice and a good old arg matey, right? When they come into the space to help me feel like I'm actually talking with a pirate. So, invitation to you to continue to think then. What cues will you use to make your guests feel like they are at the theme of your upcoming event? From the silverware to the tables to the entrance decor, who you're hiring as speakers and more. How can we bring in positive cues and remove negative ones that help us feel like we're more immersed in that theme? So now we've identified our theme. We know what cues we need to kind of make that happen. Let's think about M with mixing in memorabilia. Now, sometimes even our greatest memories have the possibility of fading from our minds without some kind of tangible reminder, right? This is where memorabilia comes into play. Oftentimes, especially with entertainment, right, there is memorabilia to be purchased. Like at a concert, you can buy a t-shirt or something at the gift shop at Disneyland, right? Similarly, at most conferences, events, and meetings, there's always a boatload of swag or free things that we all get. But as we think about experiences, I invite us to think more deeply about the memorabilia that we provide and think more intentionally about how we provide it. We can do this with surprise, right, unanticipated memorabilia, and by bestowing it in a memorable way. First, think about how you might provide unanticipated memorabilia, right? Not something that's purchased necessarily and not swag that everyone expects and gets, but something special and unanticipated. Right? For example, when I went to the College of Extraordinary Experiences that was mentioned earlier, at the very end of the first year, we had this magnificent graduation ceremony. And they gave us this beautiful lapel pin, right, that we were able to have and keep as like a member of the college. And I still have that, and it's really important and special to me, and it was completely unanticipated. Similarly, at the American Girl doll cafe, where you can take your American Girl doll to have them like, eat lunch with you, on the table where the plates are, there is a napkin, and the napkin is like held together by a little American Girl doll scrunchie. Okay, they of course have to take the scrunchie off to like get to the napkin and use it, and that scrunchie is their unanticipated memorabilia. It's not something that they were expecting, but it's something they get and that they can be excited about. Now, when we think about that unanticipated memorabilia, we also want to think about how we bestow it. Okay, that American Girl doll scrunchie, right? They didn't just hand everybody an American Girl doll scrunchie as they walked out the door and said, "Here you go, thanks for coming to the cafe. This is great." Right? But they bestowed it in a different way, in a special way. It was around that napkin. They got to take it off and be surprised by it. A proposal, as you can see on the screen, is a really, really great example about how we might change our thinking about how we bestow and give memorabilia. Can you imagine just like casually handing a ring or a ring box to your partner and saying like, you know, here's our ring. Thanks so much. Should we do this thing? Right? That would be a nightmare and a train wreck. Right? Because around this proposal idea, there's always a lot of ritual and ceremony. There are flowers and fireworks. You're in your best outfit. Maybe there's a biplane that's spelling things in the sky, amazing food, epic scenery, et cetera, right? All culminating in the giving of this memorabilia. Right? What if we did that with our memorabilia in our experiences? Right? That if we put that much time and effort into how we bestow the memorabilia, what if we gave it out, you know, at the end of a graduation ceremony, or if as a prize for finishing an escape room, or if it was in a special sealed box delivered by a castle elf, right, in a 12th century Polish castle? How can we switch up the way we give memorabilia? So in thinking about the event that you have coming up, first, what memorabilia might you provide that could serve as a tangible reminder of the experience? How can it help support the theme? And then how might you bestow it in a way that's really meaningful and magical? All right, so we've got our theme, we've got our cues to support that theme. We've got some memorabilia to make the experience last longer. Now, last but not least, we're going to touch on engaging the senses. Okay. Now, as we think about our theme, we want to think about how we can encourage and invite people to smell more, to taste more, to touch more, to hear more, and just to see more, right? When I think about this example, I often think about children at summer camp. Right? Children at summer camp are so mindful because they're so often invited to touch this tree, or to feel these leaves, or to look very closely at this bug, or to smell what the dirt smells like. Right? They're so curious. We should facilitate that same level of curiosity in adults and in all people, right? By engaging the five senses in everything that we do. Now, on the other hand, as you can see from this picture in the bottom right, sometimes engaging or heightening senses means depriving others. So we might do a blind dining type of experience, right? Where it's dark, or where our participants are blindfolded so that their sight is taken away and they're able to heighten their sense of taste or touch. Dior also does a great job of this in their fashion. Okay, the Dior fashion show, they brought the outdoors indoors, complete with, as you can see here, leaves on the ground, trees, etc. This is an indoor scene, believe it or not. Now, I'm not sure all the things they did, but if it were me, right, we could have done lots of things in this space. We could have watered the ground to really bring out the scent of the leaves. Maybe we could have pushed a forest scent into the air. Right? We could have turned down the temperature so that it feels more like fall. We could have served fall kinds of soups, right, and had noises of the outdoors playing in the background, et cetera, et cetera. But engaging the senses can really enhance the experience. So as you think about your events or the experiences that you're designing, how might you engage the five senses in ways that aren't already inherent in the experience, right? Or how might we change the senses to elevate other senses? Engaging the senses in every which way possible. So in summary, right, we think about how do we theme our experience? By harmonizing positive cues and taking away any negative cues or things that will take us out of that immersion. How might we bestow memorabilia that further solidifies our theme and helps to serve as a tangible reminder of the experience? And lastly, how do we engage the senses in a way that facilitates mindfulness and curiosity and exploration in everything that we do? So with that, I leave you with an invitation to think about all of the many experiences that you design. Right? People in this world are in 10 places at once. We can be on Facebook and Instagram, texting someone, buying something on Amazon, all while sitting in our virtual online classroom, right? Or all the while we're on vacation or at a meeting or an event. But as you, as experience designers, create more engaging and memorable experiences that immerse people in a really meaningful theme, then you create an opportunity so wonderful and so captivating that they will put their phones away and they will be right in your experience, exactly where their feet are, fully present, fully immersed, and fully enjoying that. So whether it be an event, a meeting, a concert, or your grandmother's birthday party, the principles that we discussed today can really help us think about the offerings that we provide and transform them from services and just time well saved to meaningful, memorable, and breathtaking experiences and time well spent. And that's all I've got for you guys. It was a real pleasure to be able to chat and jam and just like share a little bit of my passion and excitement with you. And please, yeah, find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect and talk more. So yeah, that's all I've got. Cheers.
Really great job, Andrew. Thank you so much. And I know you've got class coming up in just a few minutes. So there were a couple of questions. We don't have a lot of time, maybe a couple of minutes at most. But
sure.
one of the questions that came up is, how did you get into event design?
Yeah, so I mean, to be honest, Carl, I was in an undergraduate class at Brigham Young University, and I was sitting in a big auditorium of 300 people and saw that experience economy graph of this shift from good, commodities to goods to services to experiences. And in that moment, I just said, like, this makes perfect sense to me. Like, why wouldn't we be designing experiences for people? And from there, I was just hooked, and I just continued on. And then honestly, going to the College of Extraordinary Experiences was the catalyst that really, kicked things off as far as network and me really learning how to design really, really epic events.
That's on my bucket list too, to get there. So the last question I'll throw at you from the audience was, when you're beginning to think about how you're going to design an experience, what are your go-to exercises to help you get the ideation going?
Sure, yeah, great question, Carl. I rely heavily on design thinking. That's the methodology that I really like to use that comes out of the Stanford Design School. And it was originally made for, goods and services, but we have applied it to experience and experience design. So it's just simply a process of building empathy, right? And talking to your users, finding out what they want and need, defining what their problem is or what's this problem we want to tackle, ideating, and then prototyping, like really building out things and testing them more so than like brainstorming and talking about things. So yeah, design thinking is my go-to every time.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'm going to keep the program moving along. And again, thank you so much for participating. And I hope lots of folks reach out to you. And I'll look forward to chatting with you again in the near future, sir.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Carl. Thanks, everybody.